really like this week is going to be beautiful. It was like 85 today here.
Yeah, it was about like that. I think today. I haven't been outside all day. I couldn't tell you what it's like outside. It's been a day, man. It's work was kick my ass. It was hot last week, and then it finally cooled off Friday into Saturday. We finally got some rain. We hadn't had much rain at all. We were like severe drought. So we got some rain Saturday, a little bit Sunday. Expect a little bit more this week. So, and we'll be in the 80s as a high, like low to mid 80s. So definitely better than the almost 100 we were having last week.
Sure.
Feeling a little more like fall. I mean, I'm not going to run into Starbucks to get a pumpkin spice latte or anything, but you know.
Yeah, it's for sure is a situation here. So
Yeah, we've needed some rain, so I guess we got it. Just got it on the weekend. Heaven forbid we get it during the week, and so I can ride a motorcycle on the weekend. But I'll I'll quit complaining.
yeah, we've had a lot of like last week was just like cool and kind of rainy most of the week. Just like a couple days that were just not really rainy, and then this week is supposed to be beautiful. And of course, I'm super busy this week, so there'll be no riding happening for me this week. But
Yeah, I don't know that when I might get on a motorcycle. Maybe Sunday. Maybe I don't know.
yeah,
That's a big if. It's just been the mantra of the year, man. Just not a lot of time to not a lot of time to ride,
yeah,
and part of it.
yeah. I do want to try to get out. Maybe this weekend. I don't know. I do want to try to get out and just see if I can just like ride around and take a shitload of pictures. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
I haven't really done that in a long time, and
Hmm.
I think it's about time I just get out there and take a bunch of pictures and try to get some try to get some I don't know if you'd call it content, but just some pictures, right?
Sure.
I haven't done that. A lot of what I've been posting has been MotoState. So, and I'm not complaining. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, I haven't gotten out much. So
Well, you got a bike that looks completely different than last season, and you don't have many pictures of it, do you?
yeah, I mean, not a lot. I really don't. I mean, but I only went on 2 trips this year too, so that makes a big difference. I didn't get out as much, and my weekend riding was really much more consumed with just trying to get on the bike and ride when I had that opportunity. So,
Hey, what's that logo on your shirt?
oh boy. This logo is City Morgue Cycles. So got the hookup and got some City Morgue Cycles swag. So I definitely had to support that on the podcast. So yeah, pretty excited. So thank you to the crew out there. They hooked me up, and I so much appreciate it. And so wanted to make sure gave those boys a
Yeah,
shout out.
yeah, folks in St. Louis, give him a shout if you need anything done with your motorcycle. He posted in the Discord over the weekend. He's nice little soft 95 Softail that he's getting ready to derake and make a chopper out of. It looked almost too good to start chopping up, but I'm sure it's going to be badass when he's done with it.
I think it's a perfect platform to chop up. I mean, it looks
Oh, sure. It's just a clean looking bike. And
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
but hey, just want to mention that I don't have any City Motorcycle stickers, any slaps, but somehow you got like a handful of them. So I'm
That
gonna have
sounds like
to.
a you problem, not a me problem.
Yeah, I know where I'm stopping this weekend. Like, hey,
I
what
mean,
the fuck? So,
I feel like you're right down the block, and I'm like 4 states away.
I
So,
am.
you
I
know,
am.
you
Well, that
know,
was very nice of them to do, and I think we've got another one of our Patreon members who sent us some T-shirts we got over the weekend, and I'll send yours to you, and
nice,
we'll have to wear those here soon.
nice. It's pretty exciting. We're getting, we have a lot of support, and I want to make sure that I show that support back. So
Yeah.
I fully appreciate it. And when, now at least when I ride down to St. Louis next year, I'll have a place to visit, and somebody that can check the tire pressure in my tires, because seems like that's always an issue of mine.
Oh yeah.
No, it's, it's like one of those, it's always the little things, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
at the end of each season or beginning of each season, I always do like a three hole change. And then depending on how many miles I ride during the season, sometimes I'll do like a mid-season oil change, right?
Sure.
And so I'll order a three-hole kit too. But then you get out for that first ride and you're like, oh shit, I didn't do this, I didn't do this, I didn't do this, I didn't check my oil pressure, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so,
I get it.
and then, potentially it might be one of those situations where I ride down there and have them throw some tires on my bike or something like that. You know what I mean? Because I know I got something like that coming up too. I can't remember when I think it's two seasons ago or 2 seasons
Yeah.
ago is when I last put tires on my bike. So I figure probably by the middle of next season they're going to be needing it. Who knows?
Yeah.
We have that problem here is I end up with a square back tire because of all of our long straight roads. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
but
I get it.
that shit happens. So. Welcome to MotoState Podcast, where we talk about motorcycles, life, and everything in between.
Well, speaking of city morgue cycles, or we've talked about a few other places, Bare Knuckle Performance and Nine Finger and all those places. There's those locally owned shops, and then there's also the Harley dealership. And
Yeah.
it's great to have choices, whether it's multiple. In St. Louis we've got multiple dealerships, but we also got a lot of small shops. Do you guys have a ton of small shops in your neck of the woods?
So, interestingly enough, in my neck of the woods, our local Harley dealer closed about 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago. Our local Harley dealer closed,
Gotcha.
and we have a local shop. That shop opened up prior to the Harley dealer closing,
Okay.
and while the Harley dealer was open, um, I think they provided good work, did good work, provided good service, all of the things, right? Since our Harley dealership closed and they're the only game in town, I don't know how I feel about that anymore. So,
As the service, do you feel the service has changed, or just that you're concerned because they kind of have a monopoly on the area?
well, it's not so much the monopoly, it's that, so we've had a few different incidences of work having done at that shop that's been pretty poor.
Mm. Okay.
So a buddy of mine had them do his oil change. And, they use good products. They like put Redline in, and they use good products, right? But
Sure.
they changed his Softail like it was an old Dyna, and he was a quart and a half low of oil.
Oh, well, that's not good at
Right,
all.
right. Then my other buddy had tires put on there. He had tires mounted on new rims. And we got out to Sturgis, and that's when he was on that ride, and all the spokes broke off of his rim,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the tires were mounted backwards.
Hmm. Jeez, that's a big deal.
Right. So both of them, both the front and the back. Now, my buddy, honestly, we didn't look, so we didn't figure it out. But so that was incorrect, and so we've just had some things happen at our local shop that caused us to really seek services elsewhere. And so I actually don't. So there's another local dealership that's about 90 miles away from me. It's actually a little bit less than that. It's about 80 miles away from me. And they're the next closest thing to me. And they are not my favorite. They tend to be kind of rude and not very friendly in their sales department. And so the last time I had work done on my bike was by a dealer is when I went to when I had my tires changed, and I went to a dealership about 120 miles away from my house, or 100, closer, maybe closer to 150 miles from my house. And I had tires put on, and I rode there in the rain to have them do tires on my bike and rode home.
Wow.
And
Okay.
while I was there, they also, did their inspection and came back, and the guy said to me, everything looks good, but you've got a little moisture in your brake line, and we can, flush that out and put new brake fluid in, and whatever. And he charged me $100 for it, and that was it.
That's not
Oh
bad at all.
no, so I felt like I was treated very fairly. Also, that dealership, we had a breakdown on the road one time, and that dealership took a bike off the lift and put a bike on the lift, took parts off of their showroom to see if they could or off of their parts supply to see if they could help us out, and then ended up fabbing my buddy's back plate for his air cleaner in their shop, and they didn't charge us anything for it.
Wow.
So
That's
they actually like flipped it, drilled new holes in it, and remounted the back plate, and so that we could get back on the road and get his air cleaner and everything back going. And they didn't charge us. They didn't charge us anything for it. So it's one of those deals, and that's the Harley Davidson dealership, Stutzman, in Jamestown, North Dakota. Now I will say this: I mentioned them previously, and some of our listeners actually went to that dealership, and I've sold 3 bikes for them.
have you what was the commission on that?
Yeah, I didn't get any commission, but when I
That's
did
some
talk to the
bullshit.
general manager, he wanted to know who I was because they mentioned me by name,
Oh,
that they
nice.
had heard. So anyway, it's one of those scenarios where locally for me, I wish my local shop didn't do those things. I probably have 3 or 4 other instances of them doing less than ideal work, and it just doesn't feel good, right? And so you kind of lose your faith, you lose your trust, and so and then when they did something to my bike too, and when I'm trying to think. I think it was a tire balancing or something like that. The weights fell off, and they're like, "Well, yeah, we can put those back on. We won't charge you." And I was like, "Charge me? What are you talking about? Like you balanced my tires, and the weights fell off in my garage floor, and now you want to tell me you're going to charge me for it? Like that's not going to happen, right?" So it's just one of those deals where at this point I'm kind of like I like to build relationships with local shops myself, because here's the deal. Local shops, in my opinion, will work on bikes longer than the dealerships will, right? If your bike's over 10 years old, the dealerships start to wash their hands of it.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, not all dealerships, but most of them won't work on a bike much older than 10 years old. And your local shops, that's where their bread and butter is, right? And so, and if you and I've said it before, if you want your local shops to exist, you have to go there and have some stuff done, right?
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
so, what I've always said is, say you're a guy that changes your own oil on your bike, you still have to buy that oil. Go to your local shop and buy the oil from them. Even if you pay a couple bucks more, it keeps your local shop open, right? If you're a local guy that if you're a local guy that has your own tire changer and you change your own tires on your bike, buy your tires from your local shop. Don't go and buy them off Amazon or whatever. Yep, you can save yourself some money. But if you want your local shop to stay open, spend those few extra dollars and go to that local shop and buy your stuff there, right? And if you don't want to do any of that, if your local shop sells a T-shirt or whatever, do something like that. Do something to support your local shop, and you'll find that maybe sometimes developing that relationship is going to pay off for you dividends in the long run.
I agree. I mean, you shop local. I mean, it's the same concept, right? Like, I mean, go to these local shops. What's a few extra dollars to help local shops? For me, my experience, I guess, a little different. I really had a great experience with my dealership where I bought my Street Glide, and they always treated me really well. I could definitely tell, over the, I guess I had warranty went for 3 years, and over 3 years, there's probably three or four different service managers. Unfortunately, I would say that I could tell a difference between the different folks that rotated in and out of there. Yeah, I had a few instances where, yeah, we could do that, or yeah, well, like, I mean, when I had tires swapped out and get new tires put on, and said, yeah, we'll put this tire on there, and they didn't have it, and so when I went to pick it up, I was like, that's not the tire. That doesn't match the front tire or the back tire. Although those types could be run together. Like, well, it'd been good to know ahead of time. Give me a heads up instead of just doing it.
Right.
Right. Like I could have been in a spot where I could have waited an extra day or two to get the right tire in. Like maybe that wasn't even an option provided to me, and those things like that kind of frustrate me. It's all about communication at the end of the day when it comes to working on anything, whether it's your car or your bike or your house or whatever. So little things like that frustrated me. And I had people say, well, why you ought to have this stuff done elsewhere. And I was like, well, one, if it's under warranty, I'm taking it to the dealership. But,
Yep.
that's part of what I paid for with extended warranty and all that. But also those techs in there, I got to know some of those guys. They're smart guys. I want to keep them employed too. Like, there's a balance there for sure. But I will say, once my warranty was out, and I haven't been back to the dealership for anything except to have my bike inspected so I could renew the plates, which I'm a couple months overdue on the Street Glide that I realized through this conversation. But there's part of that too. And so for me, I definitely have shifted over to local shops. And man, we're just so, and I know I've said it before, we're so lucky in St. Louis to have such great local shops around here. Within a 50, 75-mile radius, man, the quality and the expertise we have around here is pretty amazing. And whether it's Chris at City Morgue Cycles, he's done some work on my Street Glide. I'm going to run the FXR by him soon. I don't know. I feel like the chain is maybe a little loose on the FXR. I'm not sure. So hey, will you take a look at it? And what I love about Chris and a lot of these local folks, for folks that aren't an expert like me, will explain, hey, this is what you should look for. This is what I'm looking for. Here's something to think about in 2 months, 3 months, or maybe next year doing this, that, or the other. I've learned a lot from folks like that. Mikey has done a lot of work for me on my FXR. Had that Saddleman Mini RT fairing. He put that on. He had to do some shaving around it to get the LP4 in there, and he made the mounting brackets for the pods that we mounted on the upper crash bar, and to put the pods on there. And he made those. Like, he's like, hey, I see the shit you got from Amazon. It's awful. Can I make them? Yeah, sure. I didn't even know that was an option. Go for it. And he did. These custom shops like that are willing to not only do quality work, but make sure it looks right. They're concerned. They're going to put their handprint on it. They want it to look like quality work coming out of the shop. And so I appreciate that. And again, explaining why they did what they did and things to consider in the future or things to look for. Especially when I got the FXR, Mikey was really, I brought it to him as a raffle bike. I was like, yeah, hey, I don't know. What do you think? And treat it like it's yours. What would you do? And so I trusted him. That's part of it too, is finding someone you can trust. And like, all right, here, do what you think needs to be done. Give it a once over. And, here's what he called me. There you go, back to the communication piece. Here's what I found. These are some things you need to do. Here's some things you ought to consider. These are probably must-dos. These are, if you want to, these are things to think about down the road. And that went a long way for me, especially since when I got that, I don't know if I ever shared, when I got that FXR, had it shipped to the dealership and they inspected it, and it was like a 7.5 mile ride to the garage. And when I pulled in to the garage, it was weeping oil out of the primary. And it's because they never put any kind of gasket or sealant between the inner and outer primary. So it's just metal on metal.
Who's they? Who's they? The Harley
Who?
dealer?
No, that's the raffle folks that rebuilt the
Oh.
bike. That redid the bike before they raffled it off. So I assumed that's what it was, and got it to Mikey. And sure enough, he's like, they did really good work here, except the one one thing they didn't do. There's no sealant, no gasket, no nothing. So and he found a few other things that they adjusted for me, and got it. He goes, this is what I would do if it was my FXR. And he did those things, and that thing's run great. And, it had too big of a carburetor on it, and I didn't know what was going on. It's like something just missing. Like it's just, I'm going up a hill, and I'm throttling down, and it's not going anywhere. And we played around with it. And he's like, at the end of the day, Luke, you just need a smaller carburetor. And he found someone that needed a bigger carburetor. So we just swapped carburetors, and he put new points in it and got it tuned right. Man, that thing runs great. So, and through that process, again, I learned so much, because he explained everything along the way. So, I would be hard pressed to go back to a dealership at this point, just because the relationships I've made, like with Mikey, with Chris, and other people, whether it's custom work or just basic maintenance stuff that I don't know how to do. It's been a great experience for me, from customer service, quality of work, and also learning along the way.
Right.
So I my hat's off to folks that any small business owner running a business has got to be hell. It's got to be tough, but to do that and provide quality work and good communication, man, you can't beat it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I've told people oftentimes too, when they, when you talk to people that are getting into motorcycles, or, what should I get? Should I get the ESP, the extended service plan? Should I get, and I've told anybody, when you buy a bike at a dealership, you should always get the wheel and tire warranty. That if you don't get any of them, get the wheel and tire, because you're going to take a nail at some point. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing you want to do on these, these expensive bikes is taco a wheel, when you could have paid an extra, $400 or $500 right up front, and it pays for itself. Hey, the wheel and tire warranty typically pays for itself the first time you hit a nail. That's usually when it could, because usually a tire is about $300 now, right? And so with the getting rid of the old one and getting a new one installed, you've paid for that warranty pretty much as soon as you take a nail, right? And so straight away, get the wheel and tire warranty, right? The extended service plan, that's up to you. That's what I always tell people. How are you going to ride your bike? What kind of garage mechanic are you? For me, like I know somebody who bought 5 oil changes ahead of time, because he just didn't want to,
Sure.
he didn't want to waste the time doing it. And for me, I like to do that, because there's no better way to get to know your bike than to get down right up close to it, right?
Yeah.
And I would, especially tell anybody, when you wash your bike, man, you should be wiggling and touching and every fucking bolt and part and everything on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that so many people are afraid that don't work on their bikes. They're afraid they're going to break something, and they're not, or they're going to do something wrong, and they're not going to be able to do it, you know what I mean? Do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some things that are complicated, but for the most part, they're not super complicated. So you, and I tell anybody, man, there's some great information on YouTube.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just as an example, if you want to learn how to change a cam in a Milwaukee 8, go to the J&P Cycles and watch their video on how to change a cam. He gives you all the torque specs. He gives you a step by step. It's like a 35-minute video. And you have everything you need. If you watch that video, you can actually take notes, and he gives you step by step of everything you need to do to change out your cam. There's some tools you need to buy. And if you go to gyms, you can buy the gyms tool. There's a couple of tool sets. There's a bearing puller, and there's a run out tool you should get. But for the I've never seen an M8 that the run out hasn't been spot on. I know twin cams had that problem, but we've done my bike 2, 3. I've done 4 cams on Milwaukee 8s, and the run out was perfect on every one of them. So
nice. Okay.
Now again, I'm not an expert by any means. I mean, I'm a garage mechanic. I fully confess, right? But what I'm not afraid to do is I'm not afraid to do it, right? I changed out the bars on my bike, and I'd never done a set of bars ever. And
Yeah.
and took it and did the whole CAN bus and depinned it and repinned it and the whole nine, and I'd never done a set of bars in my life. So, if you do your research and you're not afraid, and I'm also one of those people that's fairly decent at, like, I can take something apart and remember how to put it back together, or I can look at something and kind of like taking it apart kind of makes sense. You know what I mean? Like when I replaced my rear fender on my bike this year, I'd never done it before. Not on a touring bike. I did it on a Softail because my buddy got rear-ended a while ago, and we replaced his rear fender on a Softail. But I hadn't done it on a touring bike. It's a little bit different
Sure.
than on a Softail. But I did all that. So it's I did my suspension front and rear on my bike. So it's just kind of, you have to follow the steps and follow the instructions.
Wait,
And,
are you up for the challenge? You
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
And listen, go into it a couple, do your research, YouTube, talk to friends. If you got a relationship with a local mechanic, run it by them. Have a plan B in place. Like, if I fuck this up,
Yep.
how am I going to get it to a mechanic?
Yep.
Have that figured out, right?
Yep.
And what I always tell people is when they are taking something apart and afraid they're going to not be able to put it back together, video it. Video yourself
Or take
taking it
pictures.
apart.
Yeah, or take pictures.
Or take pictures, and that
Yep.
way you got that reference right there. I mean, and you know what? Make sure you set aside enough time to do it, because it's going to take you 2 or 3 times longer than you planned.
Yeah, and don't take it apart before a trip.
That's right. Yes. yes, absolutely. And if it's a bigger deal, wait for the winter. If you can, wait for the winter, and you got more time.
Yep. Here's the other thing I would say, though, too. Be respectful of your local shop's time. So don't call them up. If you've never spent a nickel at that shop, don't
Yes.
call them up and have them on the phone for an hour trying to talk you through something. If you've never spent a nickel there, that's just disrespectful. So, say you're in the middle of a cam job and you've screwed up, but you've gone to your local shop, they've done work on your bike, you've bought oil from them, you've bought tires from them, you've developed a relationship, they know you. Maybe they don't know your name when you walk in, and they're like, they know who you are. Different situation. Just don't call your local shop and act like an asshole and keep them on the phone, because their time is money too. And if they're on the phone with you, they're not working on a bike that they have in their shop. So that's the other thing that you always need to do too. Hey, I'm all for, like you said, both things need to exist, right? We need our dealerships to exist, and so we have to support those, like you said, kind of maybe from the warranty situation or whatever, or even if your bike's a few years old, or maybe you have a local dealership that treats you like they're a local shop.
Yeah.
If you do, man, go there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
There are some local shops around the country that are doing custom work. They're doing engine work. They're doing all kinds of stuff, right? Moonshine Harley Davidson, they have a YouTube channel. They do some serious shit in that shop. And you can get some good stuff done there, right? But at the same time, if you don't get that vibe from your local shop, or from your local dealership, then find a local shop where you do get that vibe from. And if you go to a shop and you don't feel comfortable, or you don't get that vibe from them, find a different local shop, because that's the thing. And sometimes your initial impression might be because they're feeling you out as much as you're feeling them out, right? But that's literally the best way to develop a relationship. Walk in when you don't need something done rather than when you do. And put a name to a face. Talk to them. Hey, I got this idea. I've got this project coming up. I've got this whatever. And say, what would it cost me if you guys did it? What would it, what if I did this part of it and you guys did this part of it, or whatever? Know your limits. That's the biggest thing. And then if you can, buy your parts from your local shop. I mean, like changing brake pads, for instance, are not that difficult, right? It's not a hard job to do. You don't have to bleed your brakes to change your brake pads. You can take them off. You can take them apart, change your brake pads and put them in. But buy those brake pads from your local shop.
Yep.
Yep. Do things like that, because that will again develop that relationship.
Well, and like we say on here about the podcast, it costs you absolutely nothing to tell someone about that local shop.
You mean like City Morgue Cycles?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't. I'd say, I feel like this is the City Morgue Cycle show today, but I reached out to Chris. So this weekend, I may have been on Facebook Marketplace, and I may have inquired about a Dyna on Facebook Marketplace that was for sale. And as I started a
sounds
conversation,
like
a mistake. I don't think it was. I mean, there is no Dyna in my garage, so there's definitely no mistake that's been made. But I reached out to Chris and was like, "Hey, here's kind of the specifics. What do you think something in this ballpark would be? What would be the roughly a good price for it?" And he confirmed what I was thinking. So it was great. And Chris, was like, "Hey, if you need me to go look at it and it's close by, let me know." And that's, not every local shop's going to do that, but you get a relationship with someone. In worst case, you can ride that bike over and let them take a quick look at it, throw them $20 or buy them lunch or something, and make it worth their time. And you can start that relationship, and it goes a long way. So, but there might be a Dyna in my garage for too long. You never know. So we'll see. Because I need another bike.
I feel like a Dyna would be a mistake.
Why is that?
Because it's a Dyna. I mean, you have an FXR and you have a Cruiser.
Mm-hmm.
A Dyna. Do you want to die? I mean, do you want to get the death wobbles? I mean, I'm just.
Oh no, I won't be in death wobbles.
Just a question.
It's a pretty anniversary 03. It's really nice and I think reasonably priced. So,
are you gonna make a Cholo bike out of it?
Do I look like a Cholo guy? Do I strike you as a Cholo?
I feel like there isn't a guy look to a Cholo bike look, but maybe there is. I don't know.
And I can tell you without a doubt, hell no, I'm not making a Cholo bike. That wouldn't be my thing.
Oh, I love those bikes, man. I love them. They're my favorite.
I think
they're my favorite.
They're beautiful.
They're my favorite bikes. Absolutely. If I lived in an urban area, I would have like my Road King and like a Cholo Road King, because I love the look of them. I think they just give off they're those bikes that have a stance to me that just look badass.
Absolutely. Some of those with the engraving all in it, it looks amazing. Love to look at them. I wouldn't want a bike that looked like that. That's just not me. Yeah. For me.
Well, and to me too, also, so I grew up, up until 8th grade in Southern California. And so when I lived in Southern California, the Cholo look, the mini trucks, all of that was real prevalent then. And so I just have a super soft spot, you know what I mean, in my heart for a pair of flat iron chinos and you know what I mean, some
sure,
some slip in shoes, and my shirt buttoned all the way up to my neck.
That's right, your flannel buttoned all the way up.
That's right. So it's just that that soft spot in my heart for that kind of that culture and that that style just really speaks to me. And it speaks to me, it speaks to me the same way that a performance bagger does in this area of the country right now, where they're just not very popular. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Sure.
By the time everybody has one up here, everybody everywhere else in the country is going to have moved on from them. So it just takes such a long time for some of those, legit, I can go out on a really nice day and ride around, and I'm more likely to see a big wheel bagger than I am a performance bagger.
That's crazy.
So
this day and age, when you think about it, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Well, and so here too, I can tell you that I never saw a club style Dyna up here. Almost never.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So,
interesting.
Because, we have so many long and straight roads. Even the club guys, they all rode street glides. You know what I mean? Because,
sure.
it's, so that that need or desire to be splitting lanes and ripping through traffic and that kind of stuff, which is, more prevalent with the club style Dyna scene and that kind of stuff.
Right.
It just wasn't practical here because there's no need for it.
Yeah, I hear you. So let me ask you: do you feel? And I know obviously you don't have a local dealership anymore, but over the years, do you feel that the makeup of the dealership, and how things are set up within the dealership, and maybe personnel as well, has changed? And if so, for the better, for the worse? Hasn't really changed? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So for me, I'm gonna say it's a straight 50-50. Having gone to many dealerships across the country, having been with friends that have had breakdowns, and we've gone into dealers and they've pretty much ignored us, or they've said, "Yep, you're welcome to use our parking lot and take your bike apart," but it's 114 degrees on brand new asphalt, and they don't even bother to bring out a bottle of water. You know what I mean? We've experienced that before. We've experienced then just like the other thing where they take a bike off the lift and they're bending over backwards for us. We were at a dealership one time. We were fixing my buddy Nick's bike. He had this horrendous noise. I mean, this god-awful noise coming from his motor. That's when we realized he was a quart and a half short of oil. So we thought something was really wrong with his bike, right? I mean, it was a terrible noise. And we had done a cam job on his bike. So, like, my fear was that he had a push rod that was loose or something like that, right?
Sure.
So
sure.
we asked the guys at this dealership, and they weren't busy. Can you put the bike on the lift and take a look at it? Nope, we don't have time. I said, okay. I said, would there be any way that you guys could spare a flat jack for us? And we'll do the work in the parking lot ourselves. We just need the bike on a flat, you know what I mean? Like the pancake jack.
Yeah.
And they kind of like hemmed and hawed. And I was like, hey guys, like, I'm not asking you to do anything or even touch the bike. All I'm asking is if you can spare a flat jack, a pancake jack, so we can get the bike straight up and down. And we like collectively like opened up and got all of our toolkits together to see if we could do it, right? So then I start texting my friends, and we started his bike, and I recorded a video, and I started sending videos around to say, hey, let me know what you think this noise is. And sure enough, my buddy Tony did some research, listened to the noise, and he goes, hey, he said, check your, he said, so you did Nick's, he said, you did Nick's cam. And I said, yep, that's what we did. And we fixed the oil, filled the oil. It wasn't the oil, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, and he said, and you checked the push rods. I said, yeah, we took them apart and checked the push rods, and they're all perfectly tight. No problems. They didn't loosen up. It's not a push rod issue. He goes, okay. He goes, I did my research. He said, common problem with the Milwaukee 8 motorcycles. He said, play me that noise again. I sent him the video. He said, check your front cylinder exhaust bolts. That's what it was. Front cylinder exhaust bolts were loose. The guide from your exhaust that holds it in place had loosened up, and that noise we were hearing was piston slap.
That's crazy.
And he said it's super common when you change your exhaust or whatever, you're supposed to go in and verify after you've ridden your bike for a while that because for whatever reason, the front exhaust bolts can come loose.
Interesting.
And it's on Milwaukee 8s. It's a common issue, especially on the soft tails. And sure as shit, that's exactly what it was. Those bolts were loose. That exhaust flange had come loose. We pushed it up. We tightened the bolts down. Done. Perfect. No problems.
Well, at least it was an easy fix.
It's super easy fix. Took us 3.5 hours to figure it out.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And we were 450 miles from our destination. So we had quite a ways to go because we were going to be riding a 700-mile day. So we were 3 hours behind where we wanted to be with our schedule. But we just rolled in later that night, and no harm, no foul. Good to go.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
could have been a lot worse.
But, so I've had both. Right? For me, my experience personally, I'd have to say 50-50 with the dealerships.
Okay.
Now, I think what I would do now, if I was on the road now, I would text people first and and say to them, I'm in this town. Is there a local shop I should go to? I think that's what I would do first right now if I was on the road versus a dealership, because I think that I'm just going to make the assumption that I would get better service. Okay. Knowing that we're on the road and knowing that that's a small business that they, and most of the time when we've had breakdowns, they've been something that is fairly easily fixed.
So what I'm hearing is your concern is customer service. Maybe not expertise, but customer service.
Well, because here's the deal. The customer service leads you to the expertise, and I've never had an opportunity to evaluate their expertise because every time I've been shot down right from jump. You know what I'm saying?
That's your barrier, right?
My barrier is that they've never let me evaluate their expertise because they've just straight up right away told me that they couldn't help me. So for me, it's 50-50, right? But like locally, I go to a dealership locally. I go to that dealer that's 150 miles away. Now, again, I have a relationship with that dealer. I've purchased 2 bikes from them. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Their guy that works the service counter, knows me a little bit. And so it's so that makes a difference, right? But yeah, I mean that's been, what's your experience been like on the road or dealership versus small shop? I mean, have you had issues where you could weigh in and tell me what you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I've actually had good experiences on both sides of it. Like I said earlier, I think more communication with the dealership piece of it was my concern there. I didn't have a say so, or there was a change of plans and I wasn't notified ahead of time. Like, well, hey, I've got time. Like that tire thing. Why not just order the tire that you said you're going to put on there? Mm-hmm. I can wait. Mm-hmm. I wasn't in a rush. They didn't know that because they never asked. Mm-hmm. They didn't give me an opportunity to make a decision. Mm-hmm. They took it upon themselves. Now, I feel like that's bad customer service. Mm-hmm. And also, it was a warranty piece. For all I know, they just didn't give a shit. It's warranty. Who cares? We'll slap it on there. There was nothing wrong with the tire. I'm one of those guys, I'd rather have both tires match brand-wise, right? I mean, that's just me. So that frustrated me. Little things like that frustrate me. And I think, things happen. I get it. You know what? Someone is on the road and they need to hop in front of me, and that puts my service behind. I'm actually okay with that, but communicate it to me. Think, the mechanic, the tech that's working on my bike, and their kid is at school throwing up and you got to go get them. Hey, I get it. I've been there. Just communicate those things to me. I get that. What you can control is communication. You get into a job and start working on a bike and it's worse off than you expected and it's going to take longer, it's going to cost more. That happens. But if you don't communicate that effectively, then you've created a bad experience for your customer. So control what you can control. And that for me, that's something that's a pet peeve of mine. With a local shop though, I mean, the communication's always been on point. And for me, I'm dealing with, it's a small shop. It's a 1, 2, 3 person shop or whatever. So I'm dealing with the person that owns it or the person, their lead tech or whatever. And the communication's been very fluent and very easy. I will say though, if I'm on the road, my approach would be, I'd get out the old phone and be like, all right, social media, I'm here. I'm having this trouble. Where do I need to go? And ask for recommendations from people that I know and or trust. If I know them, hopefully I trust them. But look for recommendations like that. And if I needed to, I wouldn't be opposed to going to a dealer, because maybe they can come pick it up. I don't have to pay a tow truck, or they would, or whatever the case may be. I don't know. I guess it just depends on where the circumstance and where I'm at. I would prefer to go to a local shop if need be, but maybe that local shop isn't open on a Saturday. So you just never know. So I guess again, I've been lucky on the dealership side, but I don't have that relationship at my dealership anymore. There's been a ton of turnover. It was sold, so I don't have that relationship anymore. So I'm not married to a dealership anymore. So I think that's pushed me even more so to a local shop. And
Right.
and that's just life. Those things happen. I'm not upset over it. I get it. It's business.
Right.
Dealerships are going to get sold. I'm glad it didn't close.
Right.
Because we've seen a lot of that.
Right. I think my second, I would say not really impression, but I think opinion that I would weigh in on is that one of the reasons why these dealerships were able to thrive, especially from their service departments, is that there used to be a priority to getting that guy back on the road, right? And I do think that that's one thing that's kind of slipped by the wayside, is I don't think that they find a any value in getting that guy back on the road anymore.
Sure.
I think that but here's the other thing. And we might get some hate for this either, but you can do your research online right now, and you can look up the most dependable and least dependable motorcycles. And Harley has very
Sure.
much shifted on that list to be a much, much, much more dependable motorcycle. So I don't think that shops find it necessary to cater to the guy that's on the road trip that may never, ever be a customer ever again. You know what I'm saying? Where there was a point in time when Harleys maybe weren't as reliable, they broke down a little bit more, and your dealer network is what supported people making, keeping their trips and keeping them going across the country. So
Sure.
the dealer network really is an advantage to Harley in so many ways, versus other motorcycles, because if you have a breakdown, you can just about almost find a dealership within driving distance of where you're at, or towing distance, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for me, like whether it's a dealership or a local shop, if you're going to help that person that's in need out, that's just that is a philosophy within that shop or dealership, and maybe some morals and just thought process. And I think that is lost more on people than whether it's a dealership or not. It's hardly. I think it's just people wanting to go out of their way to help. I think you see less of it, and I think this day and age in the digital world, it's even more important to do that now. Because listen, and I'm not saying you're getting held hostage if you don't do that, because they're going to badmouth you on social media. But if you don't do what's right, you're going to get blasted on social media for that. And I think that's something people should consider. That I get it too. You have a life, and you're not always going to be able to do that. But if you can, I hope these folks are. I hope to see more of that, because I think you hear, I hear plenty. I hear other podcasts and interviews with people, and oh yeah, this dealership was awful, and the next one I stopped at, they were awesome. They were great because the other dealership screwed up. And I don't know if it's shifting or not, but I just hope that people are trying to do what's right and help folks out that are, whether in need, whether they're on the road or not.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you in that respect too, and I think that here's where I think people also get confused. The service and the service that's provided in specific dealerships is not a corporate policy. So either a individual dealership or a dealership ownership group that owns many dealerships decides on those types of how they're going to run their service department, what their hours are going to be. I think they have some sort of say so on their hourly rate, because there's different hourly rates charged across the country at
Sure.
dealerships.
Sure.
Right. So, keep that in mind. to our listeners out there that this is not a Harley corporate decision that's being made at the dealership level. Do I think that there's large groups of or large sections of Harley dealerships that are not owned by individual owners anymore, and they're owned by car dealerships or corporations or whatever, and they're running them quite differently? Absolutely. I agree with you that it's an internal philosophy in the dealership of what they're going to do, and I would agree with you. I would like to see that. I would like to see a little bit more of an old school mentality going back to that they're gonna help that rider get that rider back on the road, that they're gonna help people when they're in need, those kind of things. I think you even have individual people that work in those dealerships that treat people that way, and maybe that might not be a dealership philosophy, but maybe someone in the service department does. You know what I mean?
And if you're the end user, you're the rider that is experiencing this above and beyond customer service experience, go to social media, go to Google review, whatever it may be, and make sure that you give those folks the credit they deserve. Because at the end of the day, if I'm stuck in wherever, Dallas or somewhere where there's multiple dealers, Louisville, Nashville, or there's multiple dealerships, man, look at some reviews. I mean, you do it for a restaurant, you do it for a hotel, you do it for what else, you can do it for this too. So give those folks the credit they deserve if they're treating you right.
Yeah, and it's up to you. I would never condone somebody putting people on blast, but the power of social media is much bigger than you think sometimes. I made a post one time and tagged a particular product because I was disappointed in what I got, and the owner of the company reached out to me, asked me if I would take my post down, and he would replace my parts free of charge. And that was not the intent of my post, right? But that was the outcome. To me, he changed my mind. You know what I mean? I said, yep, I took the post down. Like it never existed, and he sent me the parts, and he actually called me. He said, hey, can I have your number? And he called me, and we had a long conversation.
That's great. Good on them.
40-minute conversation about this particular product. And he said, hey, tell me about what the problem was, what issues you're having, what's going on, so on and so forth. And so, I did exactly what you were saying when we had great service at this dealership, because I said to the guy, now the question is, what do we owe you? And he said, a handshake. And I was like, what? He goes, a handshake. And so we took pictures with the sales guy and the service team. We posted it on social media. We did all of that, right? Because that's where we felt like we needed to make sure that they were really going to get their praise for what they did.
Hey, I've had to do the same thing you did. I mean, when I got that Saddleman Mini RT fairing, there was not a bracket for an LP headlight for it, and I sent it out to a place in California, and the guy said, I will make this bracket. It's going to take me some time. I said, okay, it's fine. So give me 30 days, and 30 days turned into 45, and 45 turned into 60. And finally, almost at the 90-day mark, I was like, hey, or I guess 75, 80-day mark, I was like, hey, this is bullshit. He was not returning my calls or text messages anymore, and I had to put it on blast on Instagram. And anybody that had tagged them, I tagged them in my stories in that post, and it got his attention. And within a week, I got the fairing back. It was missing some hardware, and it was very unfortunate. But sometimes you have to do that. But on the flip side, I also put a post on there that, hey, I did get it back. I didn't give him. I gave him credit for that. That's all he deserved. But the folks that have treated me well over the years, I've made sure that I've told people, like we've told about City Morgue or Nine Finger or Bare Knuckle, people that have treated me well and done good work for me. I've put it on social media, and I've talked to people about it, and have recommended them, and that's the highest compliment I think you can give anyone is personally recommending them.
Yeah, I think that's that is, at the end of the day, that's the best compliment that you can pay a company is doing something that costs you nothing and could mean everything to them. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
absolutely.
It's funny because there's a saying I learned in business very early on, and I learned this about customer service. Okay, if we get good to exemplary customer service, we tell one or two people. If we get shitty service, we tell 10. Right? Here's the deal. That should be a two-way street. When you get great service, you should tell 10 people. Right? Because you should be sending as much business to the place that's giving you good service as you possibly can. Especially now, when there seems to be a lack of good service, a lack of that being a priority in so many places.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so, I would implore anybody that's out there, if you get good service, to tell 10 people. That's the same thing though that we've made that ask of people that listen to our podcast. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yep.
If you listen to it and you like it, tell somebody that you know that might be interested, because that the word of mouth is really what does it. It does it for a business, and it does it for podcasts. It does it for social media. The power of the people right now in the social media sphere is very significant, and it can really make a big difference to a small business, to a shop, to a dealership, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, not every dealership is bursting at the seams with more business than they can handle. I mean, some of those dealerships are hanging on by a thread, and they could use some support too. So that's kind of, and I'm not trying to get on any soapbox. I'm just trying to put it out there and say, whatever it is in your area that you feel like that you're comfortable and you want to support, you have to go out of your way to support it, right? Because if you're buying all your oil off Amazon and you're buying all your this and that off of Amazon, then what are you getting? You're supporting, you don't even know what you're supporting.
You're exactly right. At the end of the day, I mean, put yourself in their shoes too. Look what they're doing. I mean, they're a business owner, and that's how they support themselves and their family. So show them some love and help them out. It costs you absolutely nothing to recommend them to somebody, or 10 people or 20 people or whatever it may be.
Right. Well, and at the end of the day, I always say that, you work hard for your money. I get it. Right. And so do these owners of small shops. The difference is that when you walk into a small shop, you're going to see where your hard-earned money goes, and you're going to see exactly what your hard-earned money supports. That's the difference, right? Order something off Amazon, and you don't know where that hard-earned money went. You don't know where it supports, and I'm going to go one step further and say, we've talked about that when we talked about parts we liked, and we talk about products or gear that we supported, right? Because there's this big push, especially in the motorcycle industry, about made in America. And I'm sorry, but I'm not 100% made in America guy. I'm not. And not because I have anything against it, is that there are literally companies that I support that are closer to me than some American companies are. You know what I mean? Like Odin, for instance. I've been using their gloves for 5 years. They're closer to me in Canada than some of the other companies, and they make a product that I really like. And so now I might get put on blast for that. That's fine. But I at least I own it. You know what I mean? Like, I own it when I say it, and I own it when but there's a there is this thing that we want to say, well, I have a Harley Davidson, and it's an American made motorcycle, and it's an American assembled motorcycle.
That's right. Yep.
It's an American assembled motorcycle. Let's call it what it is. Right.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think Shook Soda, Austin, showed that you can't have it. It's impossible to have 100% made, sourced an America motorcycle. There's still a couple things on his bike that were not
possible.
I mean, maybe a handful of things or less. I can't remember the final tally, but he also, I don't know if you followed along, but he's going to change out some parts that aren't American made, American sourced, to make that bike more rideable. And that's unfortunate. I commend him for what he did. What a journey. But it is, that's the reality we're in right now. So.
Yeah. And it's not and here's what I say too, is that rather than fight that, or, it is what it is. That's kind of where I'm at with it, is that it's not good, bad, or indifferent. It is what it is. You know what I mean? And so you can either fight the tailwinds as they are, or you can go with it and make the best of it. I'm about the adventure. I'm about I'm about making what motorcycling is to me, and it doesn't have to have a bright red, white, and blue sticker on it for that adventure to be more meaningful. Now I will say this: my adventures are all made in America. Because that's where I'm riding.
Worldwide yet. Yeah,
right.
I haven't gone worldwide yet, right?
So, but from that perspective, the rest of it is what it is. But, I don't know. I think that it lends itself. This conversation to me lends itself to a lot of opportunity for Discord, right? I think that it lends itself for a lot of opportunity for people to weigh in, and so that's what we want you to do: weigh in. Throw it in the comments, throw it on Discord, throw it in the comments of the video on YouTube, on Instagram, on whatever. What do you guys think about shop versus dealership? Support what you support. Defend your position. That's what I would say. Defend your position, because I'm not trying to start a fight with anybody. I just want to know what people think. Because we all are going to need service on our bikes from time to time, and not all of it is going to be cheap. And where do you choose to spend your money?
Well, and also put in the comments, who do you recommend and where you're at? And whether it's a dealership or a small shop locally, whatever.
Yeah.
Put that in the comments too, because, hey, if we're all out riding, I mean, that could be something to really go back to and reference if you get stuck on the side of the road, middle of wherever.
Hey, this is what we're gonna do. I just came up with a great idea. Luke doesn't even know this.
This is gonna be horrible.
It came to my mind just right now. We're gonna start a channel on our Discord, and it's gonna say local shops, and we will post local shops only. No conversations. No whatever. I want the local shop, the location, like city, state, and a phone number. We're going to post local shops in our Discord, right? So that there's a spot in our Discord that when people are traveling the country, they can find a local shop in our Discord that they can go to if they need services, right? So we will create a channel called Local Shops after this podcast is posted, and you guys can post up in that.
People are saying we needed to create a channel in Discord about pizza. I'd rather create a channel about this than talking about pineapple on pizza. So
that's right.
And if you're in Discord, you get that joke. If you're not, you're really missing out.
Right. And if somebody wants to have a conversation with me about pineapple on pizza, I'm gonna give you this backside of my hand. So
yeah, it's really simple. There's a certain way you eat. As we put in Discord, a certain way of eating pineapple pizza, and that's you fold it up, put it in one hand, and drop it in the garbage can. So,
my man.
Don't ever come at me with pineapple on a pizza,
no.
Man. I'm gonna throw it at you. So.
Right. Me too. But
well, guys, thanks for playing along this week and listening, and I look forward to the comments on the social medias and the recommendations on Discord. Also want to thank Jack, the Bogey Biker, for coming on last week and chatting with us. That was a lot of fun. We'll definitely get him back on the show down the road a little bit. Thanks, Chris, at City Morgue Cycles for not giving me stickers. Providing Ryan with a pretty T-shirt. A couple shirts, right?
Mm-hmm. I got a work shirt, too, dude. I'm super pumped about that.
Very nice.
Super pumped. Yep.
We'll talk about that, Chris. No, I'm kidding.
He's not kidding,
yeah.
I don't think.
No, I mean, we'll talk about it because I got to bring my FXR by. So. But thanks again, guys. Remember Discord. We're on Patreon. If you feel like it's in the budget to maybe throw us $5 or $10 a month, we've got a couple levels. We're having our although we'll have already had it when this airs, but next week, looking forward to our Patreon only chat, and we'll be doing our first drawing for some free merch. So that'll be a lot of fun. So yeah, thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next week.
We out. Peace.